Have you ever been around an athlete who is very high level and you've wondered what makes them this way? How do they do what they do? And the only thing you can see on surface level is that they have this look in their eyes. And that's it. Nothing else. You just know that they mean business from the look that they have, from the, fierceness that they have in that look. It's called the eye of the tiger, right? Um, that look is something that you can't give to every athlete. Not every athlete has that, and the only way you really have it is if you're born with it. That's that drive, determination to get a job done, to succeed at when life gives you hard challenges, right? That look makes you a completely different animal than just somebody who is very athletic and very good at the game, right? How do we get that look? What is it? Okay? That is your why. That is your purpose. I'm sure that you've all heard, why do you do this? Why do you do what you do? What is your purpose? What is everything you've ever worked for? Okay? I'll tell you a quick story. My freshman year of college, I was asked by one of our seniors to write a why essay. And this was everybody on the team. Everybody had to do it. And the essay was just start with the word why and start writing why you play the game, why you play baseball. And out of my 4 years of college, it was one of the best things that I think was a monumental moment that I did in college, because it was just so revealing and helped me understand who I was as an athlete, understand why I was here, what I was supposed to be doing. Right, my route was so uncommon that at times, you kind of get like, okay, like why do I do this? Like you start to think, and it's not that's a natural thing. Like that's human nature. Everybody kind of doubts themselves in that way at some point in their career because it's just unlikely and it's uncommon. So that YSA kind of really grounded me and took me into understand what I was doing and how and why that eye of the tiger was within me and how I can use it. And so kudos to our captain for giving us that. But um, what is it? You have to sit back and really sit with yourself and understand like what is your why? Why do you put in the work? Why do you care so much? Why do you really want to be successful? It's that voice that you hear tell yourself to be better, to not be mediocre, to be great. That voice you really need to pay attention to through your whole life, not just your athletic playing career. You need to pay attention to that voice because it's something that one is never going to go away and it's going to keep nagging you until you succeed at whatever, dream you have or whatever goal you have set, whatever thing you think you should be achieving because you know your worth. And I think that that voice is so beneficial if you understand how to listen to it. And without it, you're kind of just going in blind. You're going in for, whatever reason. You're kind of just going with the flow. And like it's good to go with the flow, but at the same time, it's better to have a purpose. And when you have a purpose versus just having an elite athletic ability, right? There could be two different athletes. There's one with crazy, crazy talent, just really good at what they do. And then another one who necessarily didn't have all that talent in the world, but really has a great purpose and meaning and hard work and a great work ethic and wants to be there and like wants more. And those people are usually the ones to be more successful than just the naturally talented guy. And it's just based off of what their mind is telling them, what their instincts are telling them, right? They got that mindset. They have that eye of the tiger, that look that everybody needs to have. Not everybody has it, but everybody needs to have to compete at a high level, to be stubborn in their process, to be resilient, right? Those are the guys, those are the ones we want winning. Those are the ones we want on our team. So let's talk about how do we lean into it? How do we trust it? Because it's not easy, right? Trusting anything uncertain or just a feeling you might be trying to trust. It's not easy. So how can we trust it? I think there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. We trust it in our process every day. You know, again, who do you want to be? How do you become that person, right? The person that you want to be, right? You have to live as that person you hope to become. And I think that is such an impactful quote. Live as a person you hope to become. I don't know where I got it from. I think it was on Instagram, but if you live at that as that person, you are directly trying to become that person in your acts every day. So if the person you're trying to become takes the garbage out every day, right, and cleans their room and makes their bed, right, you should do those things because that's the person that you're trying to become, right? But the person that you aren't trying to become isn't staying in bed all day, isn't not going to work out or go to the gym or put in their work, right? Those people are the people we don't want to become. So it's important to be that person every day so that you will become that person, if that makes any sense. So you got to trust your process, right? The process that you build every day, whether it's your habits, your daily habits, or your little routines that you set for yourself. I think I hit on it before in a prior episode, but the little things are actually the big things. And it's very important that you understand that because those little tasks, those daily small things will help you reach a bigger goal in the end. It doesn't have to be a huge, big jump. It's just little details every single day. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit with the 1%. But a lot of things that other athletes and a lot of athletes tend to neglect is their mindset. And this is big because in I think it was like my senior year of high school, I got told to read books. I thought reading books as an athlete was almost a necessity, a non-negotiable, because it was just so essential for other athletes and very successful to help them, play and perform and increase their game. So I went upon this journey of reading books. And since my senior year of high school, I've made a pretty nice collection in the corner of my room. And at this time, currently, I think I'm reading like 7 books at the same time, which I know seems like a lot. But when you flip through them back and forth and you kind of go from one book to another every day, it's not the same. It kind of keeps your brain fresh and it's a nice way to circle them through. So I think reading books, doing some kind of journaling, um, using those resources that you have every day to help you to work on your mental game is always a process that I will never live without. I don't think I could live without them. It's just a part of who I am now in this place, and it's something that's impacted me through my whole life, not just playing. So I think that books and journaling are such underused tools by athletes, and I think you need to start implementing them more. If you need help implementing them, maybe I'll make an episode on it. Maybe you can just shoot me a DM and ask me questions, or ask me what you should be doing because there is no right way to journal, right? It's really hard to start journaling, but once you get in the hang of it, once you get the habit of it, it's it's a very important tool that I think every athlete should be using. Now, with that being said, there is no other way around it. You have to do the hard work. The hard work is going to give you the most results in the shortest amount of time, right? You cannot neglect this. You cannot not do it. You have to do this. This is something that is non negotiable for me as an athlete because I know that the hard work is hard and not a lot of athletes are willing to do it. So if I'm willing to do it, right, if you're willing to do the hard work, you will be successful just based off of your dedication and your strength to do things that other people are not willing to do, right? That brings me back to the 1%, right? What is the 1%? Okay? It's the little group of people that aspire to do something great with their lives and are actually willing to put in the work, whether that's physically hard work or that's doing the little things, right? Those little things, right? Again, add up to be big things. If you do 1% every day, that adds up to be a lot at the end, right? But the 1%, so let me give you another story, another example. My senior year in college, we had about 5 kids who were consistently showing up to the weight room, showing up to practice on time, doing the extra work, being in our 5 a.m. group for hitting, right? Obviously, I was one of those 5 people, but those 5 people are turned out to be very successful after their senior years of college, right? One of them's a teacher right now, one of them's going to be a cop. And I mean, I'm a professional athlete, and I don't know what the other two are doing right now, but I'm sure they're doing great things in their life, right? But those people, that 1% of our team, were the ones actually putting in the hard work, putting in the dirty work, putting in the extra work, right? Doing what they had to do, the little things every single day. They were bought in, right? And what I mean by that is they cared about every single part of their day to help them be better athletes on the field, right? So that little example brings me to this point of stacking days. Stacking days is the idea of doing little things every day, consistently working towards your goal. And this ties in perfectly to the 1% because the 1% do little things every day to consistently keep on getting better, right? For a goal, for a purpose. And stacking days is also kind of another way of saying that, just in a different perspective, right? So think of it, and the analogy that I've been using with a lot of my kids at coaching is you don't become a Major League Baseball player overnight because you come to practice for 2 hours, right? Doesn't mean tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're in the big leagues, right? So those 2 hours didn't make you a professional player, but a lot of those 2 hour sessions, a lot of days doing that, a lot of hours doing that, a lot of weeks, a lot of months, a lot of years, right? Eventually, if you are focused enough and you have that purpose, you have that eye of the tiger, you have that determination, right? That will get you to where you want to be if you're lucky, right? And I know that's a little bit of a, oh, big what if, but not a lot of people become Major League Baseball players, and that's just it. You know what I mean? That's the reality. So, but anyway, you'll get close to that goal if you just keep on putting that work in, right, over time, and you're gonna get super close to that goal if you keep on being consistent, right? That's all that stacking days, the 1% is about, is being consistent and doing the little tasks, right? You have to do the little tasks and you have to do the hard work. Again, live as a person you hope to become, right? You can't neglect the person you want to become, or else you're just going to be cutting yourself short. I said it earlier in this episode, but athletes and the people with that animal instinct are most likely to succeed, right? They just outright want it more. You can see that there's something different about them. And I think that goes for a lot of athletes. Like a lot of times, either scouts or coaches will say, like, there's just something different about him, man. Like she's just different than everybody else. Um, and that's really the best thing you could ask for, right? Because that means you're special. That means you're in a good mindset and a good um, understanding of what the goal is that you have to do, the task at hand, and you're able to kind of flip that switch on and off, right? Those animal instincts, like I said in earlier in this episode, it's not something you're necessarily can build. You can't build this. I think it's just strictly straight off of how you are, your personality, what you've been through, your experiences, right? And you have no control over the things that happen to you, right? Only how you react to them. So I think that the things that you've faced in life, the obstacles that you've overcome, the things that you want to do, right? I think that makes that increases your animal instinct if you want it to. And what I mean by that is, like, if you don't want to, you're just going to bow your head to those obstacles and kind of wave the white flag. But if you take it as a challenge, whenever those obstacles or that adversity hits, and you keep progressing and you keep, staying within your process, you're trying to still become part of that 1%. And you don't let that obstacle knock you down and you just keep persevering. I think that's when we build more of that grit and that determination to succeed and prove people wrong and be better than whatever this obstacle is trying to tell us that we are, right? Because we know we are meant for more. We are totally unaccepting of the fact of the whatever the world is trying to make us into, right? We know that we hold our own destiny. We know that we can create our own environment, but we know we cannot settle to what this obstacle or adversity is trying to make us settle for. And I think that's the only way that you can really help grow that animal instinct is if you just stop and don't bow down to challenges. Don't get knocked down when obstacles come your way. Like, embrace them and work through them. One of the best books that I've read my whole career was after a big letdown, and I picked up this book called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It was one of the most transformational books I've ever read because it just changed the way I viewed what had happened to me. And it was a rough time, you know what I mean? Like, it was a very rough time in my life. I feel like I let myself down, and that book just built me up. but I was able to overcome those obstacles thanks to that book. Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I think it's a great book. If you're going through something, just go and pick it up and don't put it down until you feel like you found the answer to whatever it is. That's one of those books that you can read time and time again, and it's still going to be relevant to whatever it is you're facing. So I think it's a great book. Go pick it up. So maybe you're asking me, like, what's the feeling of this animal instinct? Like, and if I'm gonna be completely honest, it just feels like you're locked in, you know? I don't think it's something you necessarily recognize because you are so focused on the task at hand that it's easier for other people to see you being like this animal. You have that eye of the tiger that I'm talking about, right? Because they're from the outside perspective and they're like, holy crap, she's locked in. You know what I mean? But like it's like a different type of locked in. She's not just like locked in into the moment. She's locked into her surroundings, her, you know, mind to muscle connection. It's everything that's locked in and ready to go, right? So I don't think it's like one specific feeling. I think it's just how you go about your process and have a better understanding for the things around you, what you're doing, your mechanics, all that stuff. I'm going to refer to another book here because for some reason I just have a list of books that I can think of that relate to this episode. Um, Everybody knows Michael Jordan. One of the best books that I've read that talks a lot about Michael Jordan is Relentless by Tim Grover. It was, again, another one of those transformational books that I read where he's working with Michael Jordan. So Tim Grover talks about training Michael Jordan and all these other great athletes. And obviously, Jordan was the best NBA player probably had ever walked the face of the earth. And it was so easy for him to just keep on going and keep on getting better because he was just never satisfied, right? He had that idea, that mentality that nobody can stop him and nobody was going to stop him. So it was just an amazing read. Again, you need to pick it up, but an amazing experience to see the things that Jordan went through, and all those other guys that he trained. Right, he didn't just train Michael Jordan; he trained millions of other guys, great athletes, and just how they never settled. You know what I mean? They always were expecting very highly of themselves, and they were always hungry. Right? Again, animal instinct, you got to always be hungry for something. You have to always be fighting for something. What is your why? What is your purpose? Right? You're always on the hunt 24/7, and that's exactly what these guys in this book are. That's how they operate. That's how they were able to build such amazing successful careers because they were never, they never took the small negative comments lightly. They always took them a little personally so that they can have a little bit of a challenge, an inner challenge for themselves to keep on fighting, right? And that is so important because when you find out how to do that, when you take a little thing that somebody says and change it to give you motivation or a little emotional edge, I think that is just insane to be able to do that. It's a great tool because now you're always thinking that people are against you. And you take that one little thing that, whoever said, so and so said, it could have been something small, like you can't do that. And it wasn't even referring to sports, right? But something small like that and you learning how to implement it and change it to believe that they were talking about how you're performing or how you're playing, right? If you can alter that and take those little words that people say and have it motivate you to, you know, go all out and try to, do those things that you want to do and just stay hungry and you're always on the hunt, right? Always looking for the kill. I think that is the emotional edge that a lot of athletes are missing and are trying to find, but are so lost in finding it. I think back to the athletes that I train, and I'm looking at some of them, and I'm like, are really good, but these other guys are just so much better than them. Like it doesn't make any sense. The athlete that talking about, the athletes that I'm talking about, work really hard and they put all the work in, and they're very physically and gifted, and why can't they be as successful as these other kids who aren't necessarily as talented as them, but they are, doing so much better than them? And I stopped and kind of looked back and took a second to reevaluate, and I was like, man, they just want it more. They have that little look in their eye that is intimidating. And the other athletes that I think that should be there aren't there because they're just unserious, and I think that's a big part of, you know, taking yourself serious as an athlete, not just messing around all the time, and just because you're talented, you know. I'm just I'm truly blown away by the people that have talent and don't take themselves seriously because they have the potential to be so much, and they are actually hurting themselves by just goofing off and being, themselves, and I think that's hurting them a little bit. I think you need to be yourself, but there's a time and a place where you need to be more professional. You need to be more locked in and understand how the process goes when you're working out, when you're, training. You have to take yourself seriously because nobody else is going to. That's the thing. Nobody's going to take you seriously until you prove to them that you are worth taking serious. And I think it's just such a shame when I see athletes come in and they're so overly talented for their age and they're just goofing off. So when I see that in athletes, I get mad because I want them to be better and I have a higher standard for them than they do themselves. And it's really sad because I know that they probably won't succeed or want to succeed as much as I want them to. And you know what? At the end of the day, you have to kind of sit back and say like, all right, well they didn't want it, so it's I can't do anything. I'm not them. But it's just really unfortunate. I want everybody to succeed. I want to see everyone succeed, but it's hard when you have those athletes who don't take themselves serious. So if you're an athlete and you goof off at practice, please just stop doing it. Take yourself serious. Lock in. You're good. Like you have to understand you're good, but you have to pay attention to the little details. You have to do the little things. You have to put in the hard work. You have to take yourself serious because it's going to get harder from here. And when a coach gets on you for doing something like that, you shouldn't feel sad or upset or be like, oh, they're just being a jerk to me, right? And laugh it off. Like, you can't do that. So, you always have to have that edge. You have to find that edge that, like Jordan has. And it's just an insane flip that you find in your process from there. And again, it just comes with hating to be average, hating to be mediocre, right? Always shooting for a goal that you have, right? Everything you've worked for, are you going to let it go to waste or are you going to make something of it and of yourself? And I think the only way to do that, the shortest way to do that, is to want it more than you want to breathe. When you understand what that means, when you understand what that feels like, when you have a goal and you just want it so badly, you think about it daily, you start adding it into your daily life, and whatever it is, whatever it takes, no matter what it takes, if you got to cut off your left arm to do it, right? That's the mindset, that's the understanding and the feeling of what it takes to do this, to be successful like this, right? Not everyone has it, not everybody wants it as much as you do, right? But you have to want it more than you want to breathe. And when you understand that idea, it's when you start to really feel what the real impact of sports can take on your life. And when you learn how to train for that, when you learn how to visualize it every day and see that every day, whether it's winning a state championship, winning a gold medal, or just being a good parent, want it and desire it more than you want to breathe, and I promise you that you will be among the 1% of your friend group, of your family, of the world. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode. Follow my Instagram so that you can find some more updates, some new videos that I post on my feed, talking about other topics that I might not have time to get to an episode around. But definitely go follow it, go check it out. Glad you enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Share it with somebody you know. And as always, have a great day. Don't be mediocre and go get after it.